Part 40. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 391. Jay came out of the astronomical observation room. He stood in front of the balcony, looking up at the dark blue planet covering the entire sky above. His pupils were trembling, but there was a smile on his face. The smile gradually turned crazy. Ha ha. Accompanied by G's wild laughter, cracks opened in the earth, the ground exploded, and gravel flew up. Large pieces of gravel flew in the direction of the dark blue star. On the other side, Chen Hao is located in the universe, and the picture he can see at this moment is somewhat spectacular. The gaseous planet transformed from the small diamond is rotating. Under the influence of the gravity of the small diamond star, the Fuyat star begins to rotate around the small diamond star, rotating rapidly towards the small diamond star. The size of the little diamond star is too huge, and the Fuyat star looks very small. It looks like the ratio of a basketball to a small glass ball. When the Fuyat star rotates with the small diamond star, the entire Fuyat star begins to collapse and tear apart. Unlike the planetary collisions Chen Hao had seen before, the Fuyat star did not enter the atmosphere of the little diamond star. Its body began to collapse when it approached the little diamond star. It looked like it was torn apart by a force, scattered directly from the sphere, and turned into gravel powder. Before, Chen Hao had seen the collision between the blue ice star and the deep blue star, both of which were shattered together. The collision between the yellow wind star and the lowest planet that Chen Hao had seen was caused by the collision between the lowest star and the lowest star. The two planets in front of them had no time to collide, and Fuyat's star immediately disintegrated. What is going on? Chen Hao thought about it for a moment and figured it out. The Fuyat star itself has gravity. When it is affected by the gravity of the small diamond star, there is a pull between its own gravity and the gravity of the small diamond star. It's like a person holding a rubber band, holding one part of the rubber band with one hand, and then pulling the rubber band to both sides. The Fuyat star was torn to pieces. All the green people living on Fuyat planet are probably dead. Chen Hao's character is of the type where if you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. The last group of green civilization vanguards had provoked Chen Hao before, and Chen Hao killed those guys. Although the green people of Fuyat planet also belong to the green civilization, Chen Hao has no intention of threatening their survival. As a result, I didn't expect that these guys didn't care about life and death and actually came to provoke me. Chen Hao naturally couldn't let them go. Chen Hao watched as the little diamond star absorbed all the material from the Fuyat star. Chen Hao looked at the translucent screen in front of him, through which he could see the volume and mass of the small diamond star. But Chen Hao couldn't understand these numerical values. With the size and mass of the little diamond star, her numerical values were already a series of astronomical figures. The information processor can use the Earth as the unit for the mass of the small diamond star, which is more intuitive for me, Chen Hao said. As the sound fell, the text and values on the transparent screen in front of Chen Hao changed. The current mass of little diamond star is 34 times that of Earth. Previously, the little diamond star swallowed up the mass of the ice blue star and the deep blue star, and the mass was 31 times that of the Earth. In other words, the two planets it just swallowed together were equivalent to 3 times the size of the Earth. Chen Hao said, "How many times is the mass of Fuyat's star the Earth?" The mass of Fuyat's star is 1.1 times that of the Earth. There is a string of text on the screen, which is the answer of the information processor. Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at the 3D planetary system image in front of him. Let me see the masses of other planets. The information processor helped Chen Hao mark the masses of the other 4 planets in this planetary system. Chen Hao glanced at it and found that the mass of the remaining 4 planets was somewhat different from that of the Earth. The highest mass is 10 times that of Earth, and the smallest one is 3 times as massive. The gravity of a planet is related to its mass. If the planet's gravity is too great, it will be difficult for humans to survive inside. No wonder the green civilization chose to build its base on the Fuyat planet, Chen Hao muttered. Master, suddenly, a voice came. Chen Hao came back to his senses and saw that Little Diamond had returned. Chen Hao smiled and said, well done. There are other rocky planets in this planetary system. Their mass is not as big as yours. Go ahead and swallow them all to increase their mass. Little Diamond hummed. Chen Hao looked at Xiaoying. Xiaoying stood aside, looking at Chen Hao, waiting for Chen Hao's instructions at any time. Chen Hao said with a smile, Little Diamond does not have the ability to teleport. It will take time to find other planets at her speed. You act with her and try to get it done as soon as possible. Next, I will release the God realm and see the gods' changes in the world. Xiaoying nodded slightly, yes. Xiaoying and Xiao Diamond disappeared from the spot. Chen Hao withdrew his gaze, waved his hand, and the 3D image in front of him disappeared together with the screen. Chen Hao raised his hand, and what he held in his hand was the God Realm star card. Chen Hao waved his hand. Cards fly out. The God Realm star appeared in front of Chen Hao. As soon as the God Realm star appeared, a voice sounded. Master, it was Big Pig's voice. The voice was filled with excitement and surprise. 2 years and 3 months, you are finally back. Big Pig's voice was trembling. Along with the Big Pig's voice, a figure appeared in front of Chen Hao. It was the figure of Big Pig. He looked at Chen Hao excitedly, his eyes trembling and filled with tears. Master. Chen Hao smiled, crossed his arms, and said with a smile, why are you so excited? It's only been 2 years, and you're so excited? Wouldn't it be a big deal if it takes longer? Okay, don't be excited and don't cry, Chen Hao said with a smile. What's going on in the God realm? They didn't fight, did they? When the Big Pig heard it, he hurriedly said, no fight, but the brothers and sisters miss the master very much. The master didn't come back, and they were all listless. Chen Hao smiled. It's normal. Chen Hao rarely separated from the beasts. He stayed in the God realm almost every day before, and the beasts could see him whenever they wanted. The beasts were used to Chen Hao staying around. So, Chen Hao was away for only more than 2 years, and they began to worry and feel uneasy. I have to go back to see him, so that they don't miss him too much. Thinking of it, Chen Hao moved his body and disappeared on the spot. His figure entered the God realm and appeared in the sky above the God realm. Master, suddenly, Chen Hao heard an excited shout. Chen Hao was stunned, and when he turned his head, he saw a red figure rushing towards him. Chen Hao was stunned, and the figure hugged Chen Hao's neck. Master, an excited voice came. Chen Hao looked at the guy next to him. This guy was Huo Feng. Huo Feng hugged Chen Hao's neck and looked at Chen Hao excitedly. Her red eyes were filled with surprise and tears, and her face was full of joy. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 392. Master, I miss you so much, Fire Phoenix said, and directly moved her little face over to Chen Hao's face. Great, Master is not dead, Master is back again. He. Chen Hao smiled. This little guy. Chen Hao smiled and said, okay, stop rubbing, be good, stand still first. He. Fire Phoenix smiled, she let go of Chen Hao's neck, stepped aside, flapped her wings behind her, stopped in the air, and looked at Chen Hao with joy on her face. Chen Hao looked at Fire Phoenix, more than 2 years, but this thing looks no different. However, her speed is fast, and she was noticed by her at once. Master, suddenly a voice came from the side. Chen Hao came back to his senses, he was slightly startled, turned his head and saw that he had unknowingly surrounded by a circle of beasts. Shataya, Lunu, Yinglong, Xiadi, Dazu, Shuiyi, Shui'er, Erlang, etc., many of them have turned into human-shaped little guys, looking at Chen Hao, their eyes full of joy and happiness. Seeing this, Chen Hao smiled, "Don't fly in the air, all go down." As he said, Chen Hao flew downwards and landed on the ground. After Chen Hao landed, the beasts surrounded Chen Hao. "Master, what have you been doing in the past 2 years?" Huo Feng jumped around Chen Hao and asked Chen Hao. Among the beasts trained by Chen Hao, as the beasts grew older, many of them developed a sense of awe and distance from Chen Hao. Some beasts also have their own ideas and concerns. But there are also some beasts that are still the same as before, among which Huo Feng is the most classic guy. She has not changed from the beginning to now, and in front of Chen Hao, she is still as childish as always. Perhaps many beasts wanted to ask Chen Hao what he had done in the past 2 years, but because of the sense of distance, they did not dare to ask, but the Fire Phoenix had no such sense of boundaries. As soon as they found an opportunity, they would pester him and ask. Hearing the Fire Phoenix asking the key question, the beasts came up one by one, staring at Chen Hao, waiting for Chen Hao's answer. Chen Hao smiled, "Actually, I didn't do anything, I just kept on going. I made a warp engine channel, from our original planetary system through the warp engine channel, to another planetary system. We are currently in another planetary system." "Planetary system, what is that?" Fire Phoenix was stunned, her ruby-like eyes were full of doubts and confusion. Chen Hao's smile froze. The other beasts looked at each other, each with doubts and confusion on their faces. At this moment, Chen Hao realized something. Although Chen Hao had been communicating with Red Phosphorus and the information processor, he realized that everything in the WAF star was actually advanced technology left by some advanced civilizations. Especially the magic element, which is actually just some nanorobots called nano-fairies. But the beast masters don't know all this. They don't understand science, technology, physics, and nanorobots. Naturally, they don't know what a planetary system is, nor what a warp engine channel is. Chen Hao has gained growth through the various knowledge given by the previous database, but, the beast masters are still the same. Ignorance. Before, I heard the master say that the plane is the planet, but the planetary system, what is it? Huo Feng looked at Chen Hao in confusion. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled bitterly. If this is explained, how long will it take to explain it? Chen Hao thought for a while, then stopped. He crossed his arms around his chest, turned his head, and looked at the beast masters around him. He smiled, "I think you are all strong now, but you have very little knowledge. I think it is necessary for you to learn some knowledge." "Knowledge?" Huo Feng's eyes were full of doubt. "What knowledge?" The other beasts looked at each other, and none of them understood. "Well, so to speak." Chen Hao looked at Huo Feng and said with a smile, "Huo Feng, you should know now that WAF is spherical, right?" Huo Feng blinked and nodded. "Well, after I swallowed the 5th level gem, I gained the ability to leave the planet and go to the universe. I once flew far away to see WAF, and was surprised to find that WAF is spherical." Chen Hao crossed his arms, looked at Huo Feng, and said with a smile, "Then have you ever thought about the people under WAF, under that planet, with their bodies facing down and their feet facing up, why don't they fall down?" This. Huo Feng's eyes were full of doubts, and she looked confused. To Chen Hao, this question is a question that even a 3-year-old child can understand, but, obviously, Fire Phoenix doesn't understand. None of the beast masters understand. Sure enough, just as Qi Lin said, the current VAF civilization is a wrong civilization, and the knowledge of physics is completely stagnant. They are like people with guns, with strong destructive power, but they have no idea about the principles of guns. Sure enough, they have to be given knowledge. However, if they are taught little by little, how long will it take to teach them? Suddenly, Chen Hao's mind flashed, and he instantly thought of the information processor implanting Jay's memory into his brain. Is it possible to implant some scientific knowledge into the brains of all beast masters in this way, so that these beast masters can understand the true power of science? Chen Hao thought for a moment. Information processor, do you have a way to implant your scientific knowledge into the brains of all the beasts I own? Yes, but even if it is implanted, it will take time to read and understand, the voice of the information processor sounded. Hearing this, Chen Hao said, establish a communication channel for all the beasts I own, the channel name is Beasts. I need to talk to them. Establishing. Establishment completed. The communication channel name is Beasts. Hearing this, Chen Hao spoke. Beasts, as Chen Hao said this in his heart. A voice sounded in Chen Hao's head. Master, it was the voice of the big bear. Is it the master's voice? It was the voice of the big wolf. Master, the voice of the little skeleton came. Big bear? Big wolf? Little skeleton, the voice of the sword demon also sounded. Huh? Why did I hear the voices of the big bears? Isn't the big bear on the big bear star? The voice of the fire phoenix was puzzled. Then, the channel became noisy. Chen Hao could hear the voices of the beastmen in various places. Chen Hao said, be quiet. When Chen Hao's voice sounded, the channel was quiet. Chen Hao said, this is an electromagnetic wave communication channel. With this channel, I can talk to all of you remotely and at the same time. Now, I need to tell you one thing through this channel. In a while, I will implant the truth into your brain. I want you to learn and understand that knowledge, which is the truth that constitutes this world. Do you understand? Yes. Suddenly, the beastmen spoke in unison, with a hint of excitement in their voices. After saying this, Chen Hao said to the information processor, start implanting. Yes. Implanting. Chen Hao looked at the beastmen beside him. When the information processor implanted scientific knowledge into them, these beastmen, including the fire phoenix, closed their eyes one after another. Seeing this, Chen Hao crossed his arms over his chest. This is what real growth is. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 393. Chen Hao looked at the beast masters with their eyes closed. He walked aside, pulled up a vine chair and sat down. Vines appeared in front of Chen Hao, and the vines formed a table. There is an extra cup on the table. Tea emerged from the cup, and the tea was steaming. Chen Hao stretched out his hand, holding the cup, feeling the heat of the tea passing through the porcelain to the palm of his hand, and then took a sip of the tea. He looked at the beast masters in front of him. Less than a minute passed. The beast masters woke up one after another. Huofeng opened her eyes, her jewel-like eyes glowing with luster. She raised her hand, her palm lit up with fire, and a fireball appeared in her hand. Is this so? The energy transformed by the nanorobots into plasma. Huofeng shook her hand and the fireball disappeared. She looked around, as if she was re-examining the world. The expressions of the other beast masters changed a bit. They also looked around, with a hint of clarity in their eyes. Planets, stars, dust clouds, gravitational waves, so amazing. Is this the truth? Satya murmured. It turns out that the so-called Lord God is a group of creatures with too many nanorobots, and the creation of human beings is actually a creature produced by nanorobots turned into cells. It is really unbelievable. The truth, this is the truth. The beast masters were muttering to themselves, with shock and disbelief in their voices. Huofeng looked at Chen Hao. Her eyes were shiny and there was a smile on her face. Master. She approached Chen Hao and said with a smile, now I know why people stand under the planet but don't fall. That's because the gravitational waves attract them firmly to the planet, so they won't fall. Chen Hao smiled, you should read and study more about that knowledge when you have time to avoid not understanding anything, do you understand? Huo Feng chuckled, of course, I will learn whatever the master asks me to do. It's boring now anyway. It's really interesting. Suddenly, a voice came. Chen Hao looked at the source of the sound and saw that the dear girl's eyes were shining brightly. He noticed that Chen Hao was looking at him. The dear girl looked at Chen Hao and smiled, Master, actually, I have always had a lot of doubts. It's just these, there are no answers to my doubts. Now, Master, you have given me this knowledge, which has helped me solve a lot of my doubts, and there is also a lot of knowledge that I didn't know. It's really interesting. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, if it's interesting, just take a look, learn more, and research more. Yes, dear girl nodded repeatedly. Chen Hao stood up and said with a smile, I've been a little tired recently. I'll go back and rest first. You guys have fun. Hearing this, the beast masters looked at Chen Hao. Chen Hao's figure disappeared and he returned to his bedroom. When he came to the bedroom, he looked at the bedroom, which was as big as a basketball court. The bedroom was clean, tidy, and spotless. During Chen Hao's absence for the past 2 years, the seraphs were obviously looking at the palace as usual. I've been gone for more than 2 years and it's still spotless. Chen Hao smiled and came to the big bed. Looking at the neat big bed, he withdrew his eyes and walked towards the bathroom. In fact, for the beast masters, it has been more than 2 years since Chen Hao left the god realm, but for Chen Hao, it has only been a few days. However, Chen Hao has become accustomed to bathing every day and sleeping every day. Although his body does not need to sleep, the power of habit is very powerful. Chen Hao hadn't slept for a few days. When Chen Hao saw the bed, all the cells in his body yearned for sleep. But when he thought of sleep, he felt his body was a little dirty and wanted to take a bath. I took a comfortable bath, put on my bathrobe, got into bed, and covered myself with a quilt. Soft quilt and warm temperature. Comfortable. It feels so good. Chen Hao closed his eyes and rested his head on the pillow, it's comfortable. Now that Chen Hao has arrived in this planetary system, what Chen Hao wants to do next is to make Xiao Diamond and Xiao Ying continue to grow stronger. Chen Hao was very interested in watching his beast become more powerful. However, now, it is swallowing these planets in this planetary system. As for this little thing, Diamond can solve it, but it just takes some time. Chen Hao just happened to have a rest. All of a sudden, he fell asleep. Early the next morning, a ray of sunlight came in from the window and fell on the bed. A ray of light fell on Chen Hao's face. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Suddenly, a hand stretched out from the side to block the light. Chen Hao's eyebrows slowly unfurled, he slowly opened his eyes, then turned his face and looked to the side. I saw Xiaodi sitting aside and looking at Chen Hao. Eyes facing each other. Xiaodi stood up with a respectful smile, Master, you are awake. Hearing this, Chen Hao blinked. He slowly sat up and rubbed his messy hair, why are you here? Xiaodi had a gentle smile on her face, it's a bit late. I wanted to come in and ask the master to have breakfast, then, I saw that the master was still sleeping, so I didn't disturb him. Oh. Chen Hao smiled and said, I haven't had a good breakfast in a few days. Just in time, I'll go wash up and let Xuanyu and the others prepare breakfast. Xiaodi nodded slightly, then walked away. Chen Hao got up and went to wash up. After washing up as usual, he went to sit down at the dining table. When looking at the various delicacies on the table, Chen Hao only felt his saliva begin to secrete. His stomach, which was not hungry at first, seemed to feel a little hungry at this moment. Chen Hao picked up the chopsticks and was about to eat. Suddenly, the window was lit. The white light enveloped everything in front of him. As the white light came on, boom! Suddenly, A terrifying loud noise sounded. The whole palace shook slightly. Chen Hao was stunned, and he subconsciously looked out the window. The white light outside the window dissipated, and Chen Hao could see a huge mushroom cloud slowly rising into the sky. Ah! Chen Hao's eyes widened. 3 words popped up in his mind. Atomic bomb? Information processor, what exploded just now? The information processor made a mechanical sound. The explosion came from a nuclear bomb. This. Chen Hao frowned. How could there be a nuclear bomb in the God realm? What a big noise! Suddenly, Chen Hao heard a voice coming from the side. Chen Hao looked at the source of the voice, and it was Xiadi who spoke. Xiadi noticed Chen Hao's look and smiled. Master, that's Satya conducting a nuclear bomb experiment. Yesterday, Satya developed a nuclear bomb through the truth you gave her. She wanted to do the experiment earlier, but she didn't do it directly because she was afraid of disturbing you. She just heard that you woke up, so she tried it. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 394. Chen Hao frowned. He was a little surprised. Although Chen Hao had seen the power of information processors, it was still a little shocking that Chataya had developed a nuclear bomb just one night later. But after being surprised, Chen Hao had a headache. That was a nuclear bomb. After the explosion, the nuclear radiation produced would pollute the environment. Testing the nuclear bomb directly in the God realm, and so close to the palace, this was too much of a headache. Chataya, this guy. Chen Hao was speechless. Chen Hao's mind moved, and a card appeared in front of Chen Hao. It was Chataya's card. Chen Hao took a look at the card. The card glowed white and turned into Chataya's figure. Chataya appeared at the dining table with her eyes closed. She slowly opened her eyes and looked at Chen Hao. As soon as she saw Chen Hao, Chataya's eyes lit up and she smiled, Master. It's just right, Master, I just wanted to find you to see the results of my research on the truth yesterday. Chataya smiled and said, it's just that the angel said that the Master was having breakfast, so I didn't come to find the Master directly. Now the Master called me over. Are you attracted by the nuclear bomb I made? Chataya looked proud and looked at Chen Hao with an expression of am I very powerful, and a look of seeking credit. Chen Hao originally called Chataya to blame her, but seeing her proud smile and the look of seeking credit, Chen Hao was immediately in tears. I called you here to remind you of something. Chen Hao adjusted his mood, showed a gentle smile, and said with a smile, nuclear bombs will cause environmental pollution, and nuclear radiation pollution is not a trivial matter. Chen Hao treated his beast like his own child. Although Chataya directly detonated the nuclear bomb now, which would cause nuclear pollution, this problem is not unsolvable. Nuclear pollution can radiate cells and cause lesions, but those lesions are nothing in front of Xiadi's immortal realm. So, Chen Hao wanted to relax and be gentle. However, I believe that with Chataya's wisdom, she should know that these gentle words she said are also a kind of blame. Chen Hao thought that Chataya would be unhappy because of his blame, but he didn't expect Chataya to laugh, then put her hands on her chest and said with a smile, Master, what you think, I have thought about it a long time ago. So, the nuclear bomb I made this time used the technology of absorbing particles. After the nuclear bomb explodes, all scattered particles will be neutralized and absorbed, and there will be no particle radiation. Chataya gave an explanation. She smiled and said, and this time, I also said hello to the big pig for the detonation. The big pig told me to rest assured to experiment. The bombed place can be restored by collecting magic crystals from the WAF star. Hearing this, Chen Hao couldn't help blinking his eyes, and there was a satisfied smile on his face. Not bad. Really good. Although Chen Hao can also obtain the manufacturing methods of nuclear bombs and other technologies through the knowledge given by the information processor, he is not very interested in this aspect. He didn't know much about what Shataya said about the method of removing nuclear radiation. But Shataya would not lie to Chen Hao. No wonder Shataya dared to detonate the nuclear bomb directly nearby. It turned out that she had already handled everything. Hearing Chen Hao's exaggeration, Shataya smiled, and it can be seen that she was in a good mood. Master, the truths you gave are amazing. I am very interested in nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. However, nuclear fission is easier to control than nuclear fusion, and nuclear fusion is more difficult to achieve. When I learn it, I will make a small son for you, Master. Can I say that I don't know much about these? Forget it, it's too cheap to say it. Chen Hao smiled and said, I'm looking forward to your little son appearing. Shataya smiled and said, Master, do you want to go out and take a look? I blew up a really big hole. Chen Hao smiled and said, I saw it. The mushroom cloud just now was very big. When she heard Chen Hao say that she saw it, Shataya's eyes lit up and she smiled happily. Master, suddenly, a voice came. Chen Hao came back to his senses. He looked at the door and saw the dear girl standing at the door. She met Chen Hao's side and walked towards the side. Chen Hao looked at the dear girl with doubts in his eyes. What's wrong? The dear girl took out a card from her sleeve pocket and handed it to Chen Hao. I made this yesterday through the truth you gave me, Master. Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at the dear girl. The little dear girl had an elegant and gentle smile on her face, which made people feel like bathing in the spring breeze. Chen Hao took the card handed over by the dear girl. Yesterday, Shataya developed a nuclear bomb, but what did the dear girl develop? Chen Hao looked at the card in front of him, and his heart moved. Nano Creation 1.0 Nano Warrior. In the picture on the card, you can see a mechanical girl covered with exquisite armor and with 2 deer horns on her forehead. Description: a nano warrior constructed by the 1.0 version of nano robots made by the dear girl. It has the characteristic of being indestructible. As long as one nano robot is not destroyed, it can be repaired. Chen Hao immediately thought of the horn nano warrior made by the Green Civilization. Chen Hao looked at the dear girl. What is this? The dear girl explained, in fact, I have always wanted to know what the light magic is, until the truth that the master passed on to me last night gave me the answer, and then through the knowledge given by those truths, I tried to imitate and create those nano fairies. And this nano warrior is the creature I created by imitation. It is made up of nano robots, and those nano robots also have the characteristics of light magic and the ability to self-repair and heal. Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at the card in his hand. He stretched his eyebrows and handed the card back to the dear girl. He smiled and said, well done. The dear girl smiled, this is thanks to the knowledge given to me by the master. I am very interested in life. I think if I read more and understand more, the truth knowledge given to me by the master, I will definitely be able to do more things. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, come on. Well. The dear girl nodded slightly. In addition to you two, have other beast masters also done some research? Chen Hao looked at Shataya. Shataya hummed, Huofeng is studying nuclear fusion in the laboratory now, Yinglong is studying space knowledge now, and said he wants to know the process of material biological cardization. Speaking of this, Shataya paused, she looked at Chen Hao, and said with a smile, but, it's not done yet. By the time it's done, they will definitely have come. Material biological cardization? Honestly, Chen Hao also wants to know this question. Unexpectedly, Yinglong is also interested. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 395. Frankly speaking, Chen Hao also wanted to know the reason why the materials in this world can be turned into cards. But all this time, Chen Hao couldn't figure out what was going on. Information processor, regarding the cardization of VAF star, do you know what's going on? Chen Hao asked aloud. There is no answer to this question in the information database, so I can't answer it. The mechanical voice of the information processor sounded in Chen Hao's mind. Hearing this, Chen Hao frowned slightly. With the capabilities of the information processor, is there really no answer to this kind of thing? Chen Hao's mind flashed through the god he met before he was reborn. Could it be that the card transformation has something to do with that god? Besides, information processor, before I was reborn, I met a god. Do you know about that god? There is no information recorded in the information database about what happened before your rebirth, came the voice of the information processor. Hearing this, Chen Hao scratched the back of his head. Sure enough, it is a bit difficult to know something about that god through this thing. Regarding the matter of cardization, it is obvious that green civilization cannot do it yet. The principle of cardization is not clear, and the information processor has no answer. Then you can only explore it yourself. Yinglong is interested in this matter and can let him study it carefully. Chen Hao looked at the beast masters who were still standing aside and looking at him, and he smiled. Okay, let's go and do our own thing. I have to have breakfast. Hearing this, Satya smiled, and then looked at the other beast masters. Everyone, let's go, let the master enjoy the food. When the beast masters heard this, they left obediently one by one. Chen Hao looked at the backs of these beast masters and stretched his eyebrows. These little guys now have their own issues. There are so many things like nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, nanorobots, space, etc. Although I have gained a lot of knowledge, that knowledge can be poured into my head and needs to be understood and digested slowly. Chen Hao himself doesn't understand the topics they talk about now. Chen Hao touched his chin and estimated that if he continued like this, they would know more than he did. Wrong. Chen Hao turned his face sideways and looked through the window at the mushroom cloud in the sky outside the window that had not completely dissipated. Perhaps, they now know more than themselves. Big Pig, Chen Hao said. A figure rose from the ground. The figure of Big Pig appeared in front of Chen Hao. He raised his hand and put it on his chest, saluting respectfully to Chen Hao. Chen Hao looked at the Big Pig and said with a smile, "What about you?" They all have their own topics. What is your topic? When Big Pig heard this, he said, "Master, I am currently studying some knowledge of space dimensions and the use of space dimensions in warp engines." Huh. Chen Hao took the chopsticks, picked up a piece of barbecue, and put it into his mouth. While chewing, he looked at the Big Pig curiously. "Why do you want to study this?" Big Pig looked at Chen Hao. "Master has been running outside recently, mainly because Big Pig's current body cannot move, so Big Pig is thinking, if Big Pig learns the use of space dimensions and warp engines, the master only needs to stay on the Big Pig, and the Big Pig can take the master through various planetary systems." Chen Hao's hand holding the chopsticks paused slightly. Huh. Chen Hao breathed out. He looked at Big Pig, smiled, and looked at Big Pig with particularly gentle eyes. "Big Pig is still Big Pig, you haven't changed at all." Big Pig slowly lowered his head with a respectful expression. Everything Big Pig has is given by his master. For Big Pig, sharing the worries of his master is what Big Pig wants to do most. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly. "I understand you, then go for it. I look forward to the day when your project will show results." Big Pig nodded slightly, and his figure disappeared from the spot. Seeing the disappearing figure of Big Pig, Chen Hao smiled on his face. Big Pig, still Big Pig. The big wolf, the second wolf, and the third wolf, as their realms increase, they all grow up and have their own ideas and things they want to do. Firefox and Big Bear have always been independent, and they are still independent now. Big Pig, on the other hand, is still the same as before, just wanting to share Chen Hao's worries. Xiao Ying and Xiao Diamond have the same personalities. They want to use their own abilities to protect Chen Hao's safety. Xiaoying started from Jackalope, and it is still the same idea until now, without any changes. Each beast has its own character. Other side. In the 5-dragon island of Vaf Star, a giant blue dragon flapped its wings and flew in the sky. The giant dragon looked around, and its sight fell on the forest of giant trees ahead. It flapped its huge wings and sped up. Clatter! The leaves of the forest rustled in the strong wind. The giant dragon's body glowed with white light. Slowly, the giant dragon turned into a human form. This was a woman. The woman flapped the dragon's wings behind her and flew into the forest of giant trees. After landing in the forest, she stood up and looked forward. Directly in front of the woman is a giant 20-meter statue made of ice. In front of this statue stood another man with dragon horns. The man raised his head and stared at the statue in front of him, unable to regain his senses for a long time. The woman looked at the man's back, her eyes shining with a hint of light, and she slowly approached, walked to the man's side, and looked up at the statue in front of her. "Miss the Master." The man looked at the statue. "Are you okay? Are you okay?" The woman glanced at the man, then retracted her gaze and looked at the statue. "Since you built this statue, you have come here every 3 days, staring at the statue, and you have been looking at it for a whole day." The man was silent for a while. He slowly retracted his gaze, sat on a wooden chair beside him, lowered his head slightly, and looked depressed. "It has been almost 20 years since I left the Master. Now the dragons of Wolong Island are united, our children are all over Wolong Island, and our grandchildren are also being born." Dalong said slowly, "The respectable life I have now is all given to me by the Master. It was the Master who made me from a useless dragon to the current dragon god. But, looking back, I have not repaid the Master anything until now. The Master's kindness to me is so great, but I have not repaid him at all. I regret it a little. I regret why I thought about leaving the Master. I should have stayed with the Master." Dalong lowered his head, looking depressed. Erlong looked at Dalong's decadent look. She blinked her eyes, and she smiled. You are still a dragon god. If you are seen by children like this, you will be embarrassed. You are already an old guy for hundreds of years." As he said, Erlong squatted down, squatted beside Dalong, and held Dalong's hand. "I know you are very upset and blame yourself. But, Dalong, have you forgotten what the Master once said?" Erlong raised his face and looked at Dalong. When Dalong heard this, he looked at Erlong. Erlong smiled and said, "The Master said that what he wants is for us to do what we want to do. In the eyes of the Master, we are all just children. He wants to see the children grow up, and what he wants more is to see the children find what they want to do and do it. Instead of staying with the Master all the time. What you are doing now is what the Master wants us to do." Dalong's eyes lit up slightly. "And?" Erlong said with a smile, "Yesterday, the Master gave us so many truths and so much knowledge from a distance. Master, let us read carefully and understand well. I think the Master must have given us these truths for a reason." Dalong's eyes lit up slightly, and he said, "Then Master, give us these truths. What do you think the Master wants us to do?" Erlong smiled. "You think, at present in this world, no matter what kind of life, they don't know these truths? According to the truth given to us by the Master, the people in the world we are in now are ignorant. Perhaps, we can spread these truths to the lives in this world. The Master is the creator of this world, and he naturally prefers to see the people he cultivates grow." Hearing this, Dalong smiled. "Okay, then we will take some time to let the Master's truth spread to all things in the world." Erlong smiled. "That's right. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world." Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 396. Nighttime. Vav continent. Inside the house. A little girl is lying in her mother's arms. The young woman was gently stroking the little girl's hair. She looked at her child with gentle eyes and coaxed the child to sleep. The little girl slowly opened her eyes and looked at her mother. "Mom." When the young woman heard this, she showed a gentle smile. "What's wrong?" The little girl blinked her big eyes and looked at the young woman curiously. "Mom, our family believes in the God of Light. The book said that Master Yinglong unified the entire continent. Master Yinglong is so powerful, so Master Yinglong believes in the God of Light God." The young woman was startled, then she smiled, patted the little girl's body gently, and explained gently, "Master Yinglong was sent by the God of Creation to end the chaotic era, and its owner is the God of Creation. The Master of the God of Light is also the God of Creation. Yinglong and the God of Light are both gods of the same level. They both serve the God of Creation, so Yinglong is the brother and friend of the God of Light." A smile suddenly appeared on the little girl's face. "How amazing, the God of Light we believe in is actually Yinglong's friend." The little girl adjusted her posture slightly, looked at her mother, and said, "Mom, the God of Creation is also very powerful." Of course the young woman smiled and said, "Master Chuangshen created this world and gave us a place to live. He gave us life and allowed us to move. He sent the God of Light to bring light and food to people. After that, he saw that the Wharf continent was in chaos, with wars everywhere and constant chaos. He sent Yinglong to unify the Wharf continent, end the war, and bring peace and stability to the people. Master Chuangshen is the supreme God and the God we worship. Of course he is powerful." The little girl had a smile on her face, and her eyes were full of admiration. "Chuangshen is really powerful. Then Mom, does Chuangshen have a temple?" "Of course." "So, is there a statue?" "Some." "Mom, I want to go to the Temple of Creation to see the God of Creation." "Okay, let's go tomorrow." The Vav continent was unified, and the huge empire formed had a new name, Yinglong Empire. The Temple of Creation is located in Yinglong City, the capital of the Yinglong Empire. In the center of the main hall of the Chuang Temple in Yinglong City, there is a huge statue that is 50 meters high. The appearance of this statue is exactly that of Chen Hao. There are also statues on the left and right sides of the Chen Hao statue. Among these statues are the God of Light Badra, the God of Darkness Satya and Yinglong, the God of Destruction Fire Phoenix, the God of Thunder Wolf. They are all in human form, with the statues holding their hands in front of their chests, their heads slightly lowered, and their expressions respectful. There is only the statue of Chen Hao, sitting in the main hall, looking down with an elegant and gentle smile. Other side. It is also night in the God realm now. Chen Hao lay on the vine chair and looked at the night sky. The night sky is full of stars. It's just that there is no moon in the sky, because the gods have no satellites. There are only 6 planets in this planetary system. Judging from time, they should be about the same. Small diamonds are gaseous planets, and in this planetary system, they are all rocky planets, with the highest mass being only 10 times the mass of the Earth. The small diamond is already 34 times the mass of the Earth. It is not difficult to swallow those rocky planets. One night last night and one day today. That's almost it. Chen Hao opened the Universal Book and took out a card from the Universal Book. Gaseous giant planet yellow wind star. Information processor, how many times the mass of Huangfeng star is that of the Earth? Chen Hao asked. The mass of Huangfeng star is 1,310 times that of the Earth. A mechanical voice sounded in Chen Hao's mind. Hearing this, the corners of Chen Hao's mouth twitched. Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows. No wonder Little Diamond has swallowed so many and is still just a gaseous planet, while Yellow Wind Star has a giant prefix. The gap between gas giant planets and gas planets is really big. How long will it take to convert Huangfeng star into energy crystal blocks? The mechanical voice of the information processor sounded in Chen Hao's mind. The speed at which I convert planets into energy crystal blocks will change according to the strength of the strongest beast the master possesses. Currently, with my ability, it will take 50 years to convert the entire Huangfeng star into energy crystal blocks. 50 years. It's such a long time, Chen Hao said with emotion. He looked at the Huangfeng Xing in his hand. However, judging from the quality, it is estimated that it will take more than 50 years for the small diamond to grow to this point. Information processor, start conversion. As Chen Hao finished speaking, the cards lit up slightly. There is an additional progress bar on the front of the yellow wind star card. Conversion progress bar, 0. Seeing this, Chen Hao stretched his eyebrows. 50 years, I can only wait slowly. Chen Hao flipped through the omnipotent book suspended in front of him and put the cards into the card slot. Master, suddenly, a voice sounded in my ears. Chen Hao withdrew his gaze and looked to his side, only to see Xiaoying standing next to him. Diamond stood aside. Little Diamond looked at Chen Hao and said, Master, the planets have been devoured. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled and sat up. I also think it's almost time. Chen Hao looked at Little Diamond. Diamond's humanoid form is still the same as before, 1.4 meters tall, slim, with twin ponytails and colorful diamond hair. Diamond in humanoid form is exactly like a little girl. Diamond's personality is similar to Xiaoying's. If Wofeng sees Chen Hao, she will definitely be full of smiles, but Diamond is the same as Xiaoying, with a blank expression, but her gem-like eyes stare straight at Chen Hao. She is as serious as Xiaoying, but they only have Chen Hao in their eyes. Information processor, check the mass of Diamond. The current mass of Diamond is 73 Earth masses. Seeing this, Chen Hao's heart moved, doubled. However, compared with Huangmu star, the gap is still huge. I wonder if Diamond is now a gas giant? Thinking of this, Chen Hao looked at the information of Diamond displayed on the translucent blue screen in front of him. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 397. Gas Planet Small Diamond. Seeing the display on this information, Chen Hao frowned slightly. This display is not what I want to see. However, this also means that there is still a possibility for Little Diamond to improve. Her current mass is 73 Earth masses. At 320 Earth masses away from the yellow wind star, the gap is still too huge. If you want Little Diamond to continue to become stronger, you can only continue to look for planets to devour, allowing her to continue accumulating and acquiring materials. Seeing Chen Hao staring at her, Little Diamond's eyes glowed. Master. Chen Hao came back to his senses. He looked at Little Diamond and smiled. What's wrong? Little Diamond said, next, what does the master want Little Diamond to do? Chen Hao looked at Little Diamond with great interest and said with a smile, didn't Little Diamond long for power before? Why doesn't Little Diamond want to continue to become stronger? Hearing this, Little Diamond raised her hand, looked at her hand, shook it, and then looked at Chen Hao. I think I am strong enough to protect my master now. Chen Hao smiled. There is a sky outside the sky, and there are people outside the world. In the future, we will inevitably encounter more powerful existences, and it is necessary to improve our strength. Little Diamond's eyes lit up slightly, and she nodded. Master is right, but... Little Diamond looked around, then looked at Chen Hao. Master, all the planets in this planetary system have been assimilated by me, and there are no other planets nearby. I don't know how to continue to become stronger. It's very simple. Chen Hao stood up slightly, sat on the vine chair, and looked at the Little Diamond. Just keep looking for planets and continue to devour them. Just because there are no planets in this planetary system does not mean that there are no other planetary systems. In this vast and broad universe, There are more planets than there are sand on the beach. Little Diamond nodded slightly. Unfortunately, other planets should be very far away from us. My strength has increased a lot now. I can already see half of this planetary system through my field of vision, but even if I reach the boundary of this planetary system, looking out, I can't see any planets. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled. Finding planets is too simple, just let the information processor do it. He was about to speak. Is the master on other nearby planets? Suddenly, a voice came. Chen Hao and the other three were stunned and looked at the source of the sound together. I saw a little furry boy walking over there. This little boy is about 1.4 meters tall, has blonde hair, is dressed in luxurious and exquisite clothes, wears headphones, has a handsome face, and has golden pupils. He looks like Badr in his teenage years. However, something different from Balder is that this guy has antlers on his head and a fluffy golden tail behind him. Chen Hao looked at this unfamiliar blonde boy and raised his eyebrows. Who are you? The little boy was stunned. He gave Chen Hao a roll of his eyes and said, Master, really, don't you even recognize him? I am Chen Huang. Oh. Chen Hao smiled, we haven't seen each other for 2 years. Have you learned how to transform? In the past 2 years, Chen Huang had always maintained his animal form. Unexpectedly, after not seeing each other for 2 years, this guy also learned to transform into a human form. Chen Huang shrugged, I don't want to transform either. It's just that bastard Guangming Mink who runs on my back every day and almost treats me as a mount. I have to transform. Chen Hao was startled. He thought of Guangming Mink. Like Chen Huang, that kid had no intention of turning into a human form. It had always been very confident in its own form. However, the bright marten has continued to evolve, and its size has always been so small, while Chen Huang has become much larger. It's no wonder that Guangming Mink will ride Huang as a mount. Let's not talk about this anymore. Chen Huang looked at Chen Hao and said, Master, give you this. With that said, Chen Huang took out a card and handed it to Chen Hao. Chen Hao took it and looked at it. Celestial Sensor. Chen Hao was startled when he saw this thing. He looked at Chen Huang, did you do this? Chen Huang folded his hands on his chest and smiled proudly, well, I use the truth you gave me yesterday, Master. The truth records the methods of various detectors. This astronomical sensor is one of them. It can clearly observe all celestial bodies within 100 light years of us. However, Chen Huang said, Hua. The card in Chen Hao's hand lit up white. The card disappeared, and a 3D planetary system model appeared in front of Chen Hao. This model perfectly and proportionally restores the appearance of this planetary system. In the middle of the planetary system is a star whose scientific name is a yellow dwarf. At this moment, the God Realm star is rotating around a yellow dwarf, pulled by the gravity of the yellow dwarf. In the outer space of the God Realm star, there is a series of sparse asteroid rings surrounding the planetary system. This is what the planetary system we are in looks like, and then Chen Huang stretched out his slender hand and waved. The model in front of him quickly became smaller. During the shrinking process, a distance mark could be seen. After zooming out to a very small level, Chen Hao could see a planet 1.1 light years away from this planet. This planet is like a shooting star, flying towards the planetary system here. Master, this is what I discovered, Chen Huang said. I came to the Master just to share this news with you. I discovered this planet at a distance of 1.3 light years. This planet should be called a rogue planet. It is approaching us. Rogue planets and normal planets will orbit a star. A celestial body that orbits a star and clears all small celestial bodies in its own orbit is a planet. But in this vast universe, there are always some special situations. Some planets are orbiting, and for some special reason, the planets break away from the gravitational pull of the star and are thrown out by the star. They lost the ability to continue to follow the star and began to wander in the vast and spacious universe. These are rogue planets. When Chen Hao saw this guy, his heart moved. He realized something for a moment. Previously, I only looked at the planetary system to find planets. This was obviously a mistake. In this vast universe, in addition to planets with parent stars, there are also many rogue planets, and rogue planets are also good things. You can take the small diamond to swallow it first, and then look for other planets. After discovering it, my sensor still sensed the existence of life from this planet. Suddenly, a voice interrupted Chen Hao's thoughts. Chen Hao was stunned and looked at Chen Huang. Is there life? Chen Huang hummed, yes, it doesn't look like it from the outside. These beings are hidden underground. There seems to be an underground city inside this planet, and there are many beings living in it. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 398. Underground City? I never thought that there would be life in a wandering planet. It's really amazing. All of a sudden, Chen Hao became interested. Chen Hao looked at Chen Huang. Is there a way to observe the situation inside the wandering planet? Chen Huang shook his head, not yet. He looked at Chen Hao. It needs to be studied. With the truth given to me by the master, I will continue to study for a while, and then upgrade the sensor. I will definitely be able to go further. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly. Come on. Chen Huang smiled. I will, then the master, I will go to study first. Chen Hao smiled. Go, take this thing with you, it will be convenient for you to upgrade. I have a way to sense it here. Upon hearing this, Chen Huang's eyes lit up slightly, and he smiled. Okay. The image projected by the celestial sensor disappeared, and the celestial sensor, which was only the size of a thumb and shaped like a golden crystal, turned into a card and was put away by Chen Huang. Chen Huang turned and left. Looking at the back of the child Chen Huang, thinking of what Chen Huang said before, the reason why Chen Huang deliberately turned into a human form and became so small is probably because he was afraid that he would be used as a mount by the Light Martin after turning into a human form. However, it must be said that Chen Huang's temper is really good. If it were Shitai or Huo Feng, the Light Martin would dare to stay on them for a while, and the skin would probably be made into a mink coat. Information processor, do you have a way to observe the wandering planet just now? Chen Hao asked. As Chen Hao's voice fell, the figure of the wandering planet suddenly appeared in front of Chen Hao. The information processor reduced the wandering planet in proportion and projected it in front of Chen Hao. In front of Chen Hao, what can be seen is a planet that is red all over. Red. There is a lot of iron oxide on the surface of this planet. The presence of iron oxide causes the entire planet to appear red. The information processor gave an explanation. Diamond came over, she looked at the planet and said, the atmosphere of this planet is thin, and there is almost no air on it. Ordinary life cannot survive on this planet. Chen Hao couldn't help but look at Diamond. How did Diamond notice this? Diamond came from Gem Star. She was actually similar to those people on VAF Star and had no scientific knowledge. But now she noticed this. By the way, I implanted scientific knowledge into all the Beast Masters yesterday, and it seems that Diamond also learned it. Chen Hao nodded slightly. Information processor, I want to see the situation of the creatures inside this planet. As Chen Hao's voice fell, the planet in front of him became translucent, and through the translucent surface, the situation inside the planet could be seen. Everything he saw made Chen Hao's eyes tremble. Under the surface, there was an underground building made of various metals. In this underground building, countless people lived. Yes, not other life forms, but people, that is human beings. These humans live underground. They walk around underground without even wearing any protective clothing. Chen Hao saw this and touched his chin. even the green civilization would not dare to place life on a planet like this, but the humans of this civilization are really tough. They can survive in this environment. In front of Chen Hao, a translucent screen appeared, and information and intelligence appeared on the screen. And these information and intelligence told Chen Hao how these humans survive. At this moment, the surface of this planet is very cold because it has not received heat for a long time. But it is very warm under the surface. Because the core of the planet has heat, the heat is higher as you go deeper. The underground city built by humans is located in a place where the temperature reaches a suitable temperature. They study the use of things like solar lamps and cultivation rooms to provide food for humans. The entire underground city is fully sealed, and artificial air is everywhere in this underground city. Although it is on the surface, the environment inside is just like on the ground, and the environment is suitable. Chen Hao looked at this information and intelligence, and he sighed, "This is the power of technology." Suddenly, Chen Hao's eyes fell on one of the information. Chen Hao realized that the civilization was the Earth civilization. The Earth civilization had a mission. Their planet had been wandering outside for more than 300,000 years. The yellow dwarf star they were on before had expanded into a red giant star, which swallowed all the planets near it. In order to preserve the seeds of civilization, the Earth civilization chose to escape from their planetary system before the yellow dwarf star expanded and flew towards this side. Their mission is to fly to the planetary system where Chen Hao is now and become a member of this planetary system. Looking at their mission, Chen Hao inexplicably felt the passage of time. It took more than 300,000 years to fly from their planetary system to here. It has been more than 300,000 years since then, and there is still a distance of more than a light year. It's long, too long. Life is so fragile, but tough, Chen Hao said with emotion. Chen Huang said that these guys are flying towards us. A voice came from the side. Chen Hao came back to his senses. He turned his head and saw a little boy standing by, looking at this side. The little boy looked about the same age as Chen Huang, with a pair of fluffy white ears and a long snow-white tail behind him. "Who are you?" The little boy looked at Chen Hao when he heard it. "Master, you are not cool at all. I am Guangming Martin." Chen Hao smiled. "How did you become as big as Chen Huang?" The little boy crossed his arms. "I am too small, and I walk slowly normally. I just wanted to lie in front of Chen Huang, but the boy turned into a human form, and I had no choice but to change into a human form. Otherwise, it would be a bit uncool if I was too small. Let's not talk about this, Master. These guys are flying towards us. Do we want to kill them?" Guangming Martin looked at Chen Hao. Chen Hao rolled his eyes and smiled bitterly. "What are you thinking about? Don't always think about fighting and killing. Besides, they are still a long way away from us. It will take a long time for them to come to us." "Well, is that so, Bright Martin? I thought they were going to cause trouble for us, otherwise why would they fly to our side? The planetary system they lived in before was not suitable for living, so they plan to live in our planetary system," Chen Hao said. "According to the intelligence, this planet has been flying for more than 300,000 years. Ah, the little boy was stunned, and he frowned. Why are they so stupid? If it doesn't work, they can also install some large engines on this planet, and use the entire planet as a spaceship to increase the speed. If they want to come here, they will float like this. How long will it take? It's so stupid. These guys are not cool at all." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world. Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 399. Chen Hao was startled. Chen Hao glanced at Guangming Mink. "This brat has a pretty good imagination. It can't be done." Little Diamond's voice sounded next to him. Hearing this voice, Chen Hao, Guangming Diao, and Xiaoying all looked at Little Diamond. Little Diamond said, if you want to be an engine that drives the entire planet, you need a very huge thrust, and the force is mutual. And the planet itself has gravity. If the engine retreats to the point where the force is transmitted to the planet, then the planet's surface will be squeezed by the gravity and the thrust of the engine. As a result, the surface will be sunken. Life living on the surface can only die. Also, if you want to obtain enough power to turn a planet into a planetary spacecraft, you need terrifying energy, and that energy can only come from the planet itself. If we continue to provide those engine energy, all the resources of the entire planet, including rocks, will be exhausted before the planet reaches its destination. Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at Little Diamond. His eyes were filled with a sense of novelty. He really didn't expect that Little Diamond was so smart. Little Diamond noticed Chen Hao's gaze and said, when I was devouring planets, I didn't need to think. I had nothing to do. I just read the truths given to us by the Master. I learned a little bit about planets. Hearing this, Chen Hao smiled, pretty good. In that case, it's really too slow, Guangming Ming said with a casual expression. People in this civilization are not cool at all. Unlike the Master, who can directly turn planets into cards and take them with him. Speaking of this, Guangming Martin looked at Chen Hao and said with a smile, the Master is still the coolest. Hearing this, Chen Hao suddenly couldn't laugh or cry, you kid. Stop talking about this. Chen Hao waved his hand and the image in front of him disappeared. He said with a smile, it's a little late today, let's rest first, and we'll start again tomorrow. Diamond nodded slightly. Chen Hao's figure disappeared from the spot. Only 3 people, Little Diamond, Little Shadow, and Bright Martin, were left on the field. Guangming Diao looked at the place where Chen Hao disappeared and said, the Master is really cool. At the same time, Chen Hao returned to the palace. Master, suddenly, a voice came. Chen Hao came back to his senses. He looked at the speaker and saw Xiadi standing in front of him looking at him. Xiadi looked at Chen Hao with a smile on her face, Master, the sword demon is back. Chen Hao had a smile on his face, sword demon? Where is he now? Xiadi said with a smile, over there in the main hall. I originally wanted to call the Master, but then it said that the Master is resting, so don't disturb the Master. Hearing this, Chen Hao nodded slightly, ask him to come in, I haven't seen him for a long time. Yes, Xiadi responded. Then she looked at Chen Hao, there is one more thing I want to tell the Master. The sword demon also brought a girl here. Girl? Chen Hao looked at Xiadi. Fluttershy said, yes, it's a human girl. This, Chen Hao touched his nose. Is it any wonder that sword demon also imitates Big Wolf and Big Dragon to pick up girls? But this doesn't work, right? Chen Hao went into his room and sat down on the sofa in the room. He was making tea by himself. Not long after, Chen Hao heard footsteps. Chen Hao looked along the footsteps. I saw 3 figures standing at the gate. In addition to Xiadi, there was also a sword demon more than 2 meters tall. Next to the sword demon was a blonde girl who was 14 or 15 years old. The blonde girl looked at Chen Hao with her golden eyes. The blonde girl was wearing gorgeous decorations and had a slender female sword on her waist. She looked at Chen Hao, her little face full of curiosity. Sword demon led the blonde girl into the room. He raised his hand and put it on his chest, knelt down on one knee in front of Chen Hao, and slowly lowered his head. Sword demon, pay homage to the Master. The blonde girl on the side looked at the sword demon, and then at Chen Hao. She did not kneel, but looked at Chen Hao with curiosity on her face. Chen Hao smiled, get up. When the sword demon heard this, he slowly stood up and looked at Chen Hao. The sword demon looked at it seriously and said, Master, 20 years ago, the Master asked me to experience in the Valve continent, and let me learn to help the weak through experience. In these 20 years, I have encountered many things. I think I already understand what the master means, so I will come back to meet the master. Chen Hao sat on the sofa, leaning on the back of the chair, and said with a smile, "Sit down first, sit down and talk." When the sword demon heard this, he nodded slightly. The blonde girl was not polite at all. She walked to the sofa and sat down. However, she was obviously curious about Chen Hao and her eyes never left Chen Hao. Sword demon walked to the sofa in front of Chen Hao and sat down. Chen Hao glanced at the sword demon, then looked at the blonde girl. "Who is she?" When the sword demon heard this, he was about to speak. The blonde girl said, "My name is Yu." Yu showed a hearty and confident smile and looked at Chen Hao. "Uncle Sword Demon often mentions you. You are Uncle Sword Demon's master, Chen Hao, right?" This girl exuded an aura of confidence and pride. She is very confident in herself. But why does this little guy call Sword Demon his uncle? What's going on? Chen Hao touched his chin, smiled and said, "Yes, I am the creator of Sword Demon, and I am indeed his master." "But you, why do you call him uncle?" Yu smiled. "When I was very young, Uncle Sword Demon saved my life, and then he and Uncle Little Skeleton raised me, so I called him uncle." "You are Uncle Sword Demon's master, but you look about the same age as me. How about I call you Chen Hao?" Chen Hao was a little confused. From the outside, this guy looked like a little kid, but he said he was about the same age as me. Chen Hao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although this guy was brought by the sword demon was the type who liked to act rather than talk. He had no concept of politeness, so the sword demon probably didn't know how to deal with Yu's behavior. But, it's okay this way. Chen Hao hasn't met such a bold person in front of him for a long time. Chen Hao smiled and said, "Okay, then you can call me Chen Hao." Yu was happy. "You are such a nice person. No wonder Uncle Sword Demon and Uncle Little Skeleton call you master. The Grey Elves and the entire VAF continent have erected statues of you. Even the demons have statues of you. They all call you Lord Creator." Chen Hao was stunned. "Statue?" Yu looked at Chen Hao's puzzled expression, her eyes shining. "Don't you know?" Chen Hao smiled. "I don't know." Yu blinked. "I am immortal and I raise a divine beast in another world." Author, Chen Wunian. Chapter 400. Yu looked at Chen Hao in a strange way. "There are temples and statues of you everywhere in the whole VAF continent, you don't know?" Chen Hao smiled. "I rarely go to VAF Star recently, calculate the time." Speaking of time, Chen Hao touched his chin, and couldn't remember how long it had been. "It's been many years." Yu's eyes were shining. She seemed to realize something, and she smiled. "Yes, you are the god of creation, living in the god realm, not in VAF continent, so naturally you don't know the situation over there. There are many temples and statues about you in VAF continent now. Whether it is the demons, humans, or other races, they all kneel down to you and call you the god of creation." Yu crossed her arms, leaned against the back of the sofa, crossed her legs, and looked at Chen Hao with her golden eyes. Chen Hao didn't expect that VAF Star would be like this now. Was a statue erected for me? In other words, now all the lives on VAF Star, whether it is humans, demons, or anyone else, have known me. Who spread my appearance publicly? Yinglong? Or the Temple of Light? Or the Temple of Darkness? All possible. It could be one of them, or all three. You recognized me the first time she saw me, which means that the statue in the WAF Star is exactly the same as me. Forget it. It doesn't matter. Chen Hao looked at Yu and found that Yu was looking at him, with her golden eyes full of curiosity. However, there was no awe or uneasiness on her face, but confidence and pride. Chen Hao often saw this kind of confidence and pride in Huo Feng and Chataya. It was a kind of confidence in himself. Chen Hao smiled, I'm a little curious. From what you said, people in WAF Star should think that I am the creator god, and they will kneel down and worship me when they see me, so why don't you kneel? You was stunned, and she smiled, because you didn't let me kneel, and I think that respect is in the heart, and kneeling down may not necessarily respect you. Chen Hao was happy, this is really a clever little ghost. Chen Hao looked at the sword demon. Yu's confidence is obviously related to the sword demon and the little skeleton. You said that she was raised by the sword demon and the little skeleton. With the sword demon and the little skeleton, two guys who are already at the main god level, spoiling her, you can probably walk sideways in the WAF continent. It is normal for her to develop confidence with such strength. Chen Hao looked at the sword demon and said with a smile, Sword demon, what do you think when you come back this time? Do you want to continue to stay in the god realm? Or continue to stay in the WAF continent to gain experience? Sword demon looked at Chen Hao with a respectful look. Sword demon came back this time to tell the master about my feelings over the years. As for whether to stay in the god realm or continue to stay in the continent, sword demon listens to the master. WAF continent, how is it now? Chen Hao touched his chin and looked at the sword demon. The sword demon said, when the little skeleton and I first arrived at the WAF continent for training, the WAF continent was in chaos. There were wars between empires all the time, and thieves were everywhere. The empires slaughtered each other, and the thieves plundered everywhere. Except for those in the center of the empire, those living on the border of the empire lived in dire straits. Since Yinglong descended to the earth to unify the WAF continent and established 7 major regions, the entire WAF continent has 7 major lords guarding it, plus more than 3,000 laws. Now the entire WAF continent is in order, thieves and the like have almost been extinct, and it is considered peaceful. The moon said, all human beings. The empire was unified by Yinglong. The unified empire was called the Yinglong Empire. People said that Yinglong was sent by you to the world. People praised Yinglong's achievements and the achievements of the god of creation. Speaking of this, you paused and looked at Chen Hao with her big eyes. Chen Hao, did you really send Yinglong? Hearing this, Chen Hao looked at the little girl and said with a smile, Yinglong is now in the god realm, do you want to go see him? Yu was stunned, and her eyes lit up slightly, really? Chen Hao smiled and nodded, of course. Yu had a smile on her face, I am looking forward to it, but I am more interested in you now. Chen Hao's smile froze. What he said, if it wasn't for the little kid sitting on the sofa in front of him, he would have thought that some mature girl had taken a fancy to him. Yu was interested in Chen Hao because of Chen Hao's fame on the WAF continent. The fame of the god of creation is naturally greater than that of Yinglong. Chen Hao coughed, adjusted his mood, and then looked at the sword demon, you are fine, take you around, and decide whether to stay in the god realm or return to the WAF star. I have something else to do, and I have things to do tomorrow, so I won't accompany you too. The sword demon raised his hand and placed it in front of his chest, yes. Chen Hao stood up. You looked at Chen Hao, and she said, are you leaving now? Chen Hao looked at you, and he smiled and said, the god realm is very large, and there are many interesting people. You can go around and get to know them. See you next time if you are lucky. Hearing this, you blinked. Chen Hao turned and left, going back to the bedroom. Looking at Chen Hao's back, you pursed her thin lips, and then looked at the sword demon, Uncle Sword Demon, is Yinglong really in the god realm? The sword demon said, of course, Yinglong has completed the task, and now he is naturally serving his master in the god realm. You smiled, then take me to see Yinglong, I want to see Yinglong. The sword demon touched his head, even if you say so, the god realm is so big, I don't know the specific location of the god realm. I'll take you there. Suddenly, a voice came. Sword demon, and you looked towards the source of the sound. Fluttershy stood there, looking at them with a smile. The sword demon nodded slightly, Okay. The three of them left together. When leaving, you subconsciously looked back at the direction Chen Hao left. Her eyes were shining. She looked back and followed Sword Demon and Xiadi. Other side. Chen Hao returned to the bedroom, took a shower, and lay on the soft bed. He looked at the familiar ceiling above. It seems that Yinglong and Huashan did a pretty good job. I just didn't expect that VAF continent actually erected a statue for me, and unknowingly, I became famous. I don't want to think about this anymore. Chen Hao rested his arms and said, Information processor, apart from the rogue planet, where is the planet closest to us currently with a mass less than that of a small diamond? Along with Chen Hao's voice fell. A 3D stereoscopic projection image appeared in front of Chen Hao. This projected image is centered on Chen Hao's God realm and spreads out over a distance of light years. From the image, Chen Hao could see that the planet closest to him was the rogue planet, looking out. 12 light years away from the God realm star, there is another rogue planet. Continuing to look outside, there is another planetary system 102 light years away from the God realm star. See this? Chen Hao frowned. There is a rogue planet only 12 light years away, and another planetary system only 102 light years away. Is this distance too far?